Hey everyone, what's going on? Hope you're doing well, and thanks for tuning in to Relevant Jukebox. And man, another year in the books here, and a lot of good records that came out this year, I thought. 2019 was pretty awesome for music. And before I get into my top 50 albums of the year, I just wanted to say thank you guys out there if you've subscribed to my channel. I actually started reviewing records on my Instagram account in January, and then I transitioned over to YouTube in September. And yeah, I mean, it means a lot to me if you've watched my videos. It's pretty awesome, and I look forward to the future and what 2020 is going to hold. If you want more content from me, it'd be awesome if you considered subscribing, because I will be reviewing a lot more records again with some new content coming in 2020. And of course, like every year, I mean, there's going to be some records that I missed that came out this year. I mean, I do this all by myself, so I can't really listen to everything. Plus, I also work a full-time job. And man, I was able to pull together 50 records here. I actually had more than 50 that I could have put on this list, I'm sure, but I had to trim it down. And I mean, of course, my list is subjective. Obviously, it's going to be different than your list, but I think top 50 lists are fun. They're a good way to discover new music. And I mean, it pushes the dialogue forward in the music community, I think, as far as like what's appreciated, what's not. And all of the albums on this list, I really enjoyed, and I think they're worth checking out. So I mean, for 50 records, I'm not going to sift through and review every single one of these again. I'm just going to kind of sift through the list here of 50 albums, and I'll give some extra thoughts. And I mean, some records, like every year, grew on me a ton this year. Other ones also cooled off, as you might expect. And I mean, of course, I could shuffle around this top 50 list for a long time, but I have been able to trim it down to a place that I feel pretty happy with, and I hope you enjoy this video. So let's get right into this list. Alright, so kicking off the list at number 50, I have Fontaine's DC Doggerel. I totally missed this record when it came out earlier this year, but I'm glad I caught it. It's a pretty cool blend of like punk and post-punk and rock. And yeah, I mean, the singer is a little tone deaf in one note, but I kind of grew to like it. And there's some pretty catchy songs on here. At number 49, I have Julia Jacklin's Crushing. I thought this was a really heartfelt and well-written singer-songwriter release, so she's coming out of Australia. And overall, the presentation of this record is a little plain, but I do think it matches the mood captured in the lyrics extremely well. At number 48, I have Liturgy, Halion Over Quality and Quantity. Pretty crazy experimental black metal album that has a lot of elements of noise and electronic music infused in. At number 47, an album that ended up growing on me a little bit this year was Slowthai's Nothing Great About Britain. Pretty solid debut over here from Slowthai. I absolutely love his flow and his personality on the mic, and a lot of his production works in the elements of UK dub and grime, and this release was pretty awesome. At number 46, I have the debut of Aries, Welcome Home. So Aries is a YouTuber that's now transitioned into a music career, and this debut I thought was pretty sweet. It has a fun, summery vibe to it, kind of like a blend of pop and rap, similar to like Brockhampton. But man, the hooks on this release ended up growing on me over the year. At number 45, I have Quelle Chris Guns. Just another really solid, abstract, and heady hip-hop album from Quelle Chris. At number 44, I have Vegyn's Text While Driving If You Want to Meet God. Really ambitious 70+ track mixtape over here that's kind of like cataloging Vegyn's demos. At number 43, I have the second collaborative album from sludge metal act Sumac and experimental guitarist Keiji Haino. This record is a pretty mind-bending experience. It almost plays out like it's a freeform jazz album. Insert a bunch of guitar distortion and feedback, pummeling drums, and just chaotic noise. All of this playing over some pretty long and ambitious track lengths that surprisingly do stay engaging throughout the entirety of them. At number 42, I have the self-titled release from Purple Mountains, which caps off an excellent career for David, and rest in peace. At number 41, I have Lingua Ignota's Caligula. Definitely one of the more polarizing listening experiences I had in 2019. This release here is blending in elements of like doom metal, folk rock, in a really engaging way with a lot of screamed vocals, and it has this like atmosphere surrounding it like you're in The Wicker Man or something. At number 40, I have Mike Krol's Power Chords. I actually had a lot of fun with this release that came out earlier this year. It's a really good garage rock power pop record. It does kind of feel like you're being stuck at a party and you're like watching Mike Krol play and everybody else is just enamored with each other. But I mean, if you're a fan of Weezer, I think you should check this out. At number 39, I have Angel Olsen's All Mirrors. Angel is transitioned fully into synth pop on this record, and I think she pulls it off pretty flawlessly. Lots of like lush and grand instrumentation. I still do prefer My My Woman to this record here, but I really enjoyed this one. At number 38, I have Juan's Laughing Matter. I thought this was a pretty solidly written rock album that came out earlier in the year, and they're pulling in a lot of influences from like late 90s into early 2000s rock. You know, stuff like Wilco, Death Cab for Cutie, even Sonic Youth here, but this album was a lot of fun. At number 37, I have Young Thug's So Much Fun. Yeah, this is definitely one of Thugger's best albums in my opinion, which was exactly that, so much fun. At number 36, I'm gonna cheat a little bit here. I have two records from Sun, Pyroclasts and Life Metal. Now, I put both of these records on here because they both were recorded in the same studio session with Steve Albini, and I do think this was a pretty significant moment for this band in their career. In my opinion, these two records here are the most accurate representation of what their live sets sound like. At number 35, I have Flume's mixtape, Hi, This Is Flume. This really caught me off guard. I wasn't really a huge Flume fan until I heard this tape, but he's pulling a lot from like deconstructed house, bubblegum bass, and experimental electronic on here in a pretty engaging way, with some really great features on here from slowthai, JPEG Mafia, Sophie. At number 34, I have Lightning Bolt's Sonic Citadel. Another solid album from Lightning Bolt that had a slight change in their songwriting approach, but I still think this was a pretty kick-ass release. You're just not gonna get noise rock like this from anywhere else, and I actually caught them live recently for the first time, and they actually like raised the bar for my expectations of seeing aggressive music in a live setting, and it absolutely blew me away. At number 33, I have Freddie Gibbs and Madlib's Bandana. Really solid follow-up to Pinata, I thought. Maybe not as good as that one, but this is a really solid album here. At number 32, I have Chromatics' Closer to Grey. So, Chromatics have finally broken their silence after all of these years with a follow-up to Kill for Love, and it's not Dear Tommy. They took a different approach to the songwriting on here, a lot more direct, with some new synthesizer sounds mixed in. At number 31, I have Danny Brown's You Know What I'm Saying. A shorter release from Danny here, but really tight, really solid. It was executive produced by Q-Tip, so you know the loops are good. And Danny's sounding a lot more matured on this release. At number 30, I have Kevin Morby's Oh My God. This is definitely my favorite record from Kevin Morby, a really solid rock album. And this album here has some pretty lush instrumentations with a lot of saxophones, a lot of pianos, and it has this like smoky vibe to it with like a Velvet Underground Lou Reed vibe hanging over it. At number 29, I have Body Meets Truck Music. This one kind of blew me away on Impact earlier in the year. It's a really cool blend of experimental R&B and hip-hop, and the song structures can be really abstract at times. But I mean, picture something like Flying Lotus mixed with the band Palm, and that's kind of where you land on here. At number 28, I have girl bands The Talkies. Really, really awesome noise rock album that's blending in a lot of influences from like industrial, no wave. And yeah, a lot of the instrumentation is pretty insane, even though it has a little bit more of like a rough lo-fi recording. At number 27, I have Alex G's House of Sugar. Definitely wasn't my favorite Alex G record, honestly, but I'm pretty enamored with him as a songwriter. There's some career highlights on this album, but also some missteps in my opinion. But I mean, anything that we're gonna get from Alex G, I'm gonna be in love with, so. At number 26, I have Spelling's Maisie Fly. This was like a really cool synth pop record that came out early in the year from Sacred Bones, and it definitely has this like witchy, horror-like quality to it, like she's performing a seance in front of you. But the synthesizers on here are really cool, really adventurous sounding. And I mean, if you dug like the Drive soundtrack and you're into Bjork, I think you should check this out. At number 25, I have Vegyn's Only Diamonds Cut Diamonds. Yep, another Vegyn record is on my list here. This one being his like proper studio album that came out. And yeah, I mean, he just has like a really eccentric approach to making electronic music with a really good ear for like endearing melodies on here. I mean, if you're an Aphex Twin fan, you should check this out. At number 24, I have Whitney's Forever Turned Around. This is like a really solid second album from Whitney here that's this like soul-centric, folky, indie rock release that has this vintage veneer on it. The vocals can be a little one-dimensional, but the melodies on here are golden, I think. At number 23, I have the debut of Dorian Electra, Flamboyant. Just an extremely well-written and bombastic, like bubblegum bass-flavored pop record over here. Really solid songwriting, really sharp hooks coming from Dorian. At number 22, I have Uboa's The Origin of My Depression. So Uboa is an artist that I'm brand new to, and actually shout out to the Needle Drop for turning me on to Uboa. This release here is combining elements of like power electronics, noise, and even like bedroom pop. It's a pretty crazy album that's like a play on all the senses here that takes you through Uboa's mind of going through depression. Not really for the faint of heart over here, but if you're intrigued by this kind of stuff, I think you gotta get your ears on it. And at number 21, I have Little Simz' Gray Area. Really solid hip-hop album over here that I think could satisfy almost any hip-hop head. Just some really gritty and aggressive beats that kind of have like a Gorillaz flair to them, and just solid flows from Little Simz. I mean, she's like an animal on the mic. At number 20, I have Carly Rae Jepsen's Dedicated. I really like this album. I thought it was a pretty solid follow-up to Emotion. I mean, this was just a really solid album in my opinion that was really well written, have some hooks on here that pop. At number 19, I have Earl Sweatshirt's Feet of Clay. Now, I know a lot of people online were billing this as an EP. I mean, when Earl officially announced it, it kind of seemed like it was an album. Could be an EP, I don't know. I don't really care. It's on my album list. I've been just extremely intrigued by the direction that Earl has taken after some rap songs here with all these really dark and depraved like vignettes of rap songs he's putting out. I just think it's like unbelievably enjoyable and creative, and it has me just watering at the mouth again for more Earl Sweatshirt in this style. At number 18, I have Weatherday's Come In. Yeah, this is kind of like a lo-fi masterpiece in a lot of ways. Picture if like Car Seat Headrest got mixed with like Sufjan Stevens' instrumentation from like the Illinois record, but really engaging and ambitious from front to back. It's kind of rough around the edges, but I mean, it is really rewarding if you're into lo-fi music. At number 17, I have Crumb's Jinx. I really just enjoy the atmosphere of this record with some pretty solid written songs on here. I mean, it kind of has this vibe like you're sitting in a book bar drinking wine on like a overcasty kind of day, and it has a feeling similar to like Portishead's Dummy. But yeah, just lots of replay value in this record for me. At number 16, I have the debut of Black Midi, Schlagenheim. Yeah, I mean, this is one of the most off-the-walls blend of like art rock and noise rock that's coming out of these guys who are actually super young. There's parts of it that remind me of like early Battles, but then it's got this heaviness to it like it's like the Jesus Lizard or something. Just really cool and just engaging and challenging rock songs here with a pretty eccentric vocalist. At number 15, I have Tyler the Creator's Igor. I mean, I can't really deny it. This is probably Tyler's best album here. The production is absolutely insane. It's almost like a mixture of like Cherry Bomb and Flower Boy. And the pacing of the album really threw me off at first, but it becomes more rewarding over multiple listens. And yeah, I mean, I do think he sold some of the features short here, but pretty small complaint overall. This record is pretty awesome. At number 14, I have Black Dresses, Love and Affection for Stupid Little Bitches. So I mean, if you, like many people on the internet, freaked out about 100 gecs this year, this Black Dresses album is pretty similar. If you like that record, I think you should check this out. It's a really fuzzy and colorful noise pop release that has a lot of Sleigh Bells influence going on, but with more deranged vocals and more aggression in there. At number 13, I have Caroline Polachek's Pang. So this is the album I think this year that grew on me the most out of anything. And in my review originally, I think I called the production on here plain. Oops, I was like totally wrong on that. It's very like quiet and a little more stripped back, but the songwriting on here just reveals itself over time, and it's like mind-blowing. At number 12, I have Shadi's You Can't Hear Me. Just a really creative and mind-expanding noise rap album over here that dropped on Death Bomb. The structures of the songs are really strange, and Shadi is basically doing like slam poetry on these tracks. And I mean, if you're a fan of Madlib's Quasimodo albums, I think you're gonna get into the production on this album. And at times, it almost sounds like somebody chopped up a bunch of sound bits in the soundtracks of like an exploitation film from the 70s and molded it into songs. I mean, it's pretty insane. And at number 11, I have Ariana Grande's Thank You Next. Potentially the biggest surprise of 2019 for me was liking this Ariana Grande record as much as I did. Now, there are still spots in here I really don't enjoy, and I didn't really care for the singles. But on the tracks that she hits, they are easily my favorite pop tracks of 2019. Loving her voice, obviously, but like, the atmosphere of this record reminds me a lot of SZA's Control, and I think if you dug that one, you gotta get your ears on this one. Woo! Alright, so we're in the top 10 now. Starting off with number 10, I have Stella Donnelly's Beware the Dogs. What a bittersweet indie pop release coming from Stella over here. It's really well written, it's pretty easy listening, and I mean, her personality shines through these lyrics here. But I mean, overall, I think why this record stuck with me so much wasn't just about the memorable lyrics that she brings to the table, but the whole thing does have a lot of variety to it, but also the atmosphere surrounds it just makes me feel like I'm in like some A24 coming of age teenage romantic comedy or something. At number 9, I have Jai Paul's Bait One's demos. Now, yes, of course, I am aware that this has come out in the past, but this is the first time that these songs were released on streaming platforms. And honestly, back when these were originally dropped, I wasn't really up on Jai Paul, so this was like kind of new to me. And I mean, if it's true that these demos were originally recorded around 2004 or whatever, he's got to be the only artist that has recorded music, released it over 10 years into the future, and then still had it sound refreshing. I mean, yeah, I'm just obsessed with this guy's kind of like fractured vision of R&B and pop that goes on in this album. Extremely influential. The mixing's a little out of whack, but I actually love how the synthesizers swallow everything up. They sound huge. At number 8, I have Billy Woods and Kenny Segal's collaborative album, Hiding Places. Whew, boy, what a despondent and grim hip-hop album over here. I mean, the feeling of this record feels like you are placed directly in that weird house on the cover. Kenny Segal's production on here is really insane, I think. It's really forward-thinking, almost has a homegrown feel to it, too. And Billy Wood's gritty delivery is the perfect marriage. And, you know, honestly, I almost feel like this record plays out like an emo album. He's not really talking about stuff that makes you feel good on here. And, yeah, I mean, I am just really have my fingers crossed that these guys are going to follow this one up in the future with a second one. At number 7, I have Otoboke Beaver's Itekoma Hits. Now, this was a compilation of a lot of singles that they had compiled before, and then a couple new ones in the mix here, but this is a really insane rock album. Really speedy and aggressive performances all over this thing. I mean, I think Melt Banana fans are going to get into this, and it does have a slight Pixies flair to it, I think. But yeah, I really want to see this band live. I really hope they tour in the US coming up in 2020. At number 6, I have 100 gecs' 1000 gecs. Now, I think this is one of the most mind-bending experimental pop records to come out in a little while, blending in elements of pop, noise pop, electronic music, ska, and punk even in a really engaging way. And this kind of divided the internet when it came out. I know a lot of people think this is like a meme or it's like novelty or something, but it does feature the most catchy song of 2019, in my opinion, Money Machine. And I just can't help but be just obsessed with the creativity that they put into this release. At number 5, I have Charli XCX's Charli. Oh man, I mean, this is just such a wonderful pop record. My pop record of the year of 2019 overall. The production is thick. It's grandiose, like we would expect from A.G. Cook. But, I mean, again, Charli steals the show on here with her really powerful and robust voice. She has an ear for melody that really connects with me. And, I mean, tracks like Click and 2099 have some really futuristic qualities to them that I think are really ahead of the curve right now. At number 4, I have JPEG Mafia's All My Heroes Are Cornballs. Yeah, I mean, this was really insane. I mean, JPEG Mafia is easily one of the best producers in the hip-hop game going nowadays, in my opinion. And I know a lot of people online were talking about how they didn't like this one as much as Veteran, but I kind of did, maybe a little more actually. There's more of a focus on like Peggy's softer side on here, but the production can get really aggressive at times, like what you'd expect from him. And the whole thing just kind of feels almost loosely structured. And I end up revisiting this album in chunks and pieces. But I mean, it kind of squashed a lot of my expectations for how hip-hop tracks could be structured, and has already like really altered my listening approach to a lot of hip-hop. At number 3, I have Wise Blood's Titanic Rising. Hands down the most beautiful album to come out in 2019, I think. Everything on this record pops. The instrumentation is extremely grand and lush and golden. The compositions and the arrangements on this release are extremely rewarding to listen to over multiple listens, and I love how there's a lot of these like underlying tones that are peppered throughout the album that kind of make it feel like you're listening to it from like a VHS tape or something. And without a question, album cover of the year. At number 2, I have Slauson Malone's A Quiet Farewell. Now this album here, in my opinion, is like hip-hop stretched out to its extremities. Just one of the most challenging and experimental hip-hop records I've ever run across. There's elements of like vaporwave in here, noise, plunderphonics, and a lot of this release, it's kind of hard to tell if you're listening to a full song or something that's being smeared in front of your face. But if you guys are patient listeners out there, I highly suggest sitting with this release and giving it its time to run throughout the course of it, because no doubt you will be rewarded with a lot of the melodies that are in here. And at number 1, my album of the year of 2019 has got to be Shoo Shoo's Girl with a Basket of Fruit. Yeah, I mean, this might be one of the most off-the-wall art rock records I've ever heard. Now, this is surely going to be an acquired taste, I know, and I'll openly admit this isn't a record that I run back to every day. However, I can't help but be completely obsessed and enamored with something coming out that's this grotesque and depraved sounding, turning around and being something that I actually really enjoy and seek pleasure from in a way. Now, I don't even really know if I have accurately deciphered a lot of the lyrics on this record. A lot of it can kind of come off like absurdity, but I mean, it's extremely entertaining, and I mean, the way that they blend power electronics and art rock and noise rock on here is just so ahead of the curve, I think. And I mean, it's kind of like you're sitting down with like a David Lynch film or something. Like the first time you see one of his movies, it's going to go right over your head, just like this record did for me. And at times it's going to seem like things don't make sense and there's no point to it. But I mean, just look up the underlying meanings of the track Mary Turner, Mary Turner. And kind of why this one sits on the top of my list is because it's one of those instances where, yeah, I do enjoy the music, obviously, but I was just extremely impressed from this album. And I think if you pass this record along to someone, there's no doubt in my mind they're going to feel awkward about it. And I think that's a product of a really effective release here from Shoo Shoo, and props to Jamie for going way all out over here and just no remorse. So yeah, guys, I mean, that wraps up my 2019 Top 50 Album of the Year list. I really hope you enjoyed it. Leave some comments down below about your list or what your top album of 2019 was. I'd love to hear it. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen in 2020. And if you want more content from me, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Peace.